Thank you so much for joining us on At Issue. I'm H. Wayne Wilson. The implementation of stormwater management programs and utility fees are becoming more and more common, yet we don't think about it much because what's underground we don't really see. Well, we're going to talk to representatives from 3 communities that are trying to do something about water quality issues, and one of them has instituted a stormwater utility fee back in 2006. One did it just this month, and one is thinking about it. And those individuals happen to be Melissa Brown, who is the city administrator for the city of Eureka. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And Melissa represents a city that just instituted a utility fee for stormwater. And we also have with us Wayne Aldrich. He is the Director of Public Works for the town of Normal. And you have some experience because what year did you implement the fee?
In 2006.
2006. Right. And we'll talk about your experience in just a moment. But first, let me introduce you to Scott Reese. Scott is a city engineer for the city of Peoria, and you're thinking about.
Correct. We're in the process of going through what we're calling a One Water Committee to get public input and go through a feasibility process to see if we can institute a stormwater utility.
And we'll talk about that committee, and we'll talk about what's called CSO and things of that nature in just a moment. But first, let's go to Eureka. And you have stepped forward and said we're going to have a $6 a month on residential property
Correct.
Fee to handle the stormwater utilities. What does that all entail? What do you mean when you say we're going to have this fee for what kinds of services?
Well, to begin with, we have identified 5 areas that present the most problematic areas of town in terms of flooding. And those will be our target projects over the course of the next 20 years because those do have in excess of a $5 million price tag. So we determined the $6 price unit through a series of meetings and through planning, looking at the equivalent residential unit, what was the average square footage of each homeowner, and then utilizing that to determine that fee to pay for those projects.
And what kinds of projects are we talking about?
Well, currently we're working in an area of town, Hilldale and Crestwood areas, and that's by the Eureka High School. And we are repairing inlets that are crumbling. We are also upsizing pipes that were undersized to make sure that we're moving the water away as quickly as we can down to the discharge points. And that's the focus of our current project. And it will likely be the case for all of those projects.
And those projects might be a while before you accumulate enough money.
Yes.
So while Eureka looks for a track record to develop, you have a track record.
Yes.
What's your experience?
I think very good. I mean, this fee has helped us to do several things related to stormwater. One of the things is pay for stormwater-related parts of capital projects like street projects, bridges, regional detention basins, things like that. It also helps us pay for street sweeping. So a lot of the debris that collects in the street, that doesn't go into the sewer system, it's collected with the street sweepers. We also fund, through this program, a stormwater utility technician, and what she does is helps with permitting. She also oversees construction projects to make sure contractors are doing the right thing with erosion. So it does several good things for water quality in Normal.
And your fee is how much for residential property?
It's $460 per month for residential property, yes.
And how does commercial property and industrial property, how does that all work out?
It's similar. They call this the ERU. So in Normal it was calculated at, I think, 3,200 square foot of impervious area is an ERU, so an equivalent residential unit. And that is translated into commercial and industrial properties also. And so there's a fee established for those properties based, again, on impervious area.
Same thing in Eureka?
Yes.
And is there a discount at all?
We have a credit manual that we've established and accepted through council to allow for application from commercial properties who wish to demonstrate that they are either reducing their runoff or they're discharging directly to waters other than the city infrastructure for storm. And the maximum credit they could receive would be 50%, and that's if they demonstrate 100% of discharge to waters that are not a part of our infrastructure, or showing that they are retaining 100% of their water on property.
And you have a discount for commercial?
Very similar credit. Credit manual's been developed very similar to that. Engineering studies have to go in and the application has to be developed reviewed by our engineering department. But some of the same credits can be applied, yes.
But not applicable to residential?
No,
Just
not
not
at this
cost
point.
effective?
Right.
The city of Peoria is actually some years ago said, we'd like to look at a stormwater utility fee, but didn't do it.
Yeah, we talked about it back in 2003 and actually did some early action plans for projects that needed erosion control or had erosion problems. And then it just didn't get legs to develop and implement the utility at that point in time. But then since then, it came back to life back in 2007, and then Councilman Jacob at that time was kind of championing it, and then he's no longer on the council.
George
and then,
Jacob,
yeah.
yeah.
And then now this year it's come back up again.
And I know you're not the city council, so I don't know that I expect a full response to this, but I'm a little surprised knowing that when I worked at WCBU Radio back in the late 70s, early 80s, one of the stories we repeatedly did was on combined sewer overflow, CSO. And the city of Peoria still hasn't implemented a stormwater utility fee.
Correct. We have addressed some of the CSO. In 1985, there was a pollution control board order that actually eliminated or reduced the combined sewer overflow volume from 847 million gallons down to 160 million gallons. And at that point, Peoria spent $10 million doing that. But then in 2006, we were notified by the United States EPA that we needed to reduce that 160 million gallons down even further.
So what are you doing with the EPA? I mean, because the original plan that I first reported on was we're going to build these great big underground tanks, concrete bins, and use that overflow to sit in there until the sanitary district could catch up. And before we even go there, explain what a combined sewer is.
So a combined sewer is very common in old river cities, especially. Ours date back to the 1800s, and it was basically they are pipes underground where the sewage flows in, and it handles the sewage fine. But they're oversized so that when it rains, inlets are tied to them, and then the rainwater mixes with that sewage and is transferred down to the sanitary district or to the sewage treatment plant. But on heavy rain events, and in Peoria that happens to be more than a quarter inch of rain in an hour, that will cause, it overwhelms the system. And so then we have weirs set up to where then it releases it out to the Illinois River. And that is 1972, the Clean Water Act was adopted. And basically then in 1996, they had CSO policy from the US EPA. And the goal is to reduce that number down to zero.
So instead of these concrete bins or other alternatives, you've decided to go all green, or at least hope to go all green with EPA permission.
Yes, we are confident that we can do a 100% green solution. And the other city that's most comparable to us as far as aggressiveness on green has been Philadelphia, and they're about 25% green. But they didn't do that first reduction from that 140 million gallons down to the 160. So in theory, it's more like 20% green since we did the early on projects. But for this round, we're looking at 100% green.
And when you say green, what kinds of projects are we looking at that will actually prevent that overflow from going into the river?
What we're trying to do is source control. So basically capture that rainwater before it ever even enters the system and get it to infiltrate into the ground. And there's a number of ways you can do that. One of the easiest is to make pervious pavements or take parking lanes and instead of having them be asphalt, replace them with bricks that allow that water to infiltrate back into the ground. Or alleys. Chicago did a green alley project where they took all their alleys and put them back into bricks to allow infiltration to occur. Other things it can do are bioswales and rain gardens, and basically those are along in the right of way along the road, and it allows places for the rainwater to go down the gutter of the road and then infiltrate back into with native plants that actually soak up that rainwater.
I want to talk about native plants, but first, no combined sewers
No
in
combined
Normal?
sewers in Normal.
And no combined sewers in Eureka?
No.
We're
So
willing to sell ours.
You want to pass those along? Great. Let me talk about plants for just a moment, because that's part of your green solution. As a matter of fact, I want you to explain Maine and University in just a moment, but Eureka College has a project that there actually is underway now this week.
Yes.
Explain that to me.
Well, Dr. Mullen is the ecology professor at Eureka College, and she's spearheaded this. She's working with students to introduce, basically, they're turning in a retention area into native plantings to show what can be done. They're also working on LEED certification for a building that was just built, Sanders Hall, and I believe this is a part of that project. As far as what plants are being used,
I'm not asking for detail, but basically it's limestone weirs or gabion baskets of sorts, and then these deep-rooted prairie grasses that will, I think it's going to be in tiers, and it will absorb the water and actually filtrate that water.
That's my understanding.
And to explain to everybody that the Kentucky bluegrass, the root system is just a couple of inches deep. We're talking about switchgrass and things of that nature. It's up to 10 feet of root system, and that's why it's so beneficial when you talk about green solutions. Let me go back to Maine and University. Anybody that's gone through that intersection, other than complaining about it, and we won't go there, I'm sorry, but they also notice those
Amoeba-shaped planters.
Thank you. Explain how that works with regard to the CSO and stormwater runoff issue.
So those planters are set up so that the street inlets don't go into a traditional sewer system. Like typically that would go into a pipe, and then that goes into a bigger pipe that then eventually goes down to the river or into the sewer system and gets treated at the sewer plant. Those are set up so that all the street water actually filters into those planters and then infiltrates back into the ground. And we do have an overflow so it built into those so that if we get a very large rain, it doesn't flood the street. It'll actually flood the planters and then it goes into the sewer system. But in general, up to about a 2-inch rain, those planters will take and infiltrate back into the ground, or we have it planted with native plants so that they can soak up that water.
So it's that deep root system again.
Correct.
And this is going to be in what area of the city?
It's in the oldest 8 square miles of the city, basically from Caroline Street down to Dar Street, and in general, everything below the bluff.
Now, your utility fee, the money there isn't spent on that kind of thing. It's spent on maintenance.
It can be spent on those types of things, and one of the things, similar is Uptown Circle, where we have a stormwater collection facility that we cycle through the water feature there in Uptown. So those types of, we call them BMPs, best management practices, that they are available for that fee. But maintenance and new capital construction projects that relate to stormwater and stormwater quality are eligible.
And you've been collecting this since 2006. Do you know how much money a year? Or how
We do about 1.8, I think, now per year.
And is that sufficient to cover the cost of the maintenance of all of this and the street sweeping, et cetera?
For the existing program, it is, but when we have a large capital project, that may have to be supplemented through other sources. But typically, I think the fund has really helped us out again with the maintenance and the standard capital program that we have now, which is much reduced.
And you don't know for sure yet, but you're raising about how much money?
About $250,000 or $260,000 each year. Well, that's what we're projecting.
And yet you have now this is a long-term plan, but you have more than $5 million worth of projects you're looking at. And
Correct.
your city council has said,
They wish to pay as they go. We do have a project underway currently, but it is a smaller scale project, something in the 200,000 range. But that will grow as we have discoveries along the way. But the next large project will likely be around Eureka College. And we know that we will have to collect those revenues for a period of at least 3 to 4 years to afford that project, to be able to pay for it.
that's the one on Reagan Drive?
Yes.
Explain to the viewers what happens there.
Well, in periods of very heavy rain, it will blow the manhole covers off. There's just an enormous amount of water that comes down Reagan Drive.
And you're shaking your head, yes.
We've heard of those things. We don't have that normal.
You don't?
No, on occasion.
He's living in a panacea over here. Well, I think it might be beneficial to talk about, I mentioned at the start of the program that it's underground, we don't pay attention to it, we the public. But what kinds of structures are we talking about? What do these look like? What are they made of? And why is maintenance so difficult?
Well, storm sewer pipe, similar to sanitary sewer, can be made of concrete, clay, PVC, or plastic, and brick. In some of the older areas, it could be made of brick. And so, especially in sanitary sewers and also storm sewers, we can televise those sewers and see what they look like. We talked earlier that some of our oldest sewers, like the brick sewers, that aren't possible to build anymore just because of the cost and the labor involved, are some of our best looking sewers in town, and they're some of the oldest sewers in town.
But maintenance is, how do you maintain a pipe that's
Difficult. I mean, there's new techniques that are being used, like sewer lining, that's been used for the last 20 years, I think, but it's catching on. The prices are starting to come down because there's more contractors that do it. So it's kind of a non-destructive improvement, whereas traditionally you would dig the whole sewer main up and replace it with new pipe. Now they can go into the sewer and line it with these new systems, which although expensive, are nowhere near the price of digging the pipe up.
And you're looking at the possibility with the galvanized metal pipe?
Yeah, that's part of a lot of Peoria's CMP or corrugated metal pipe. And to extend the service life of that, you can line it. And basically a lot of our corrugated metal pipes run through people's backyards, or it runs from the street through the backyard to the creek. And it's actually cheaper for us to line them if we can catch them where they're salvageable and line them versus tearing up people's landscaping and that sort of thing and having to do restoration.
Set up in the Richwoods area?
Richwoods, yeah, mostly in the Richwoods Township annexation.
I want to talk a little bit about water quality in general, because all of this revolves around water quality. You have Walnut Creek, the Illinois River, everything, the watershed goes into the Illinois.
Right.
What kind of issues do you face with regard to the EPA and water quality in general?
Well, for us, and like I said, it's an unfunded mandate for the city of Peoria to solve the combined sewer issue, and we believe in clean water. And we've done studies that actually show the water is polluted even in the Illinois River before it even gets to Peoria. Now we are adding to the problem in a large rain event where we add sewage to the river. But it is something we believe in cleaning it. It's just trying to fund it, I guess, is our challenge.
Water quality?
I think in general this program has helped in Normal with water quality. I'd say one of the big ways is construction runoff. All the silt and things like that. There's things being done to capture that before it gets into the creeks and into the rivers. I think a concern in the future are the various chemicals that are used by cities and other governments in de-icing and snow control. I'm hearing that the EPA may start cracking down on that, so we may have to change some of our procedures and strategies with de-icing in the winters because of the salt content of the runoff.
And water quality for you, you've got Walnut Creek right there,
Yes.
runs just near downtown.
And I've spoken with Dr. Mullen at the college about the possibility of putting in for some regional grants that may become available to deal with the sediment issue that rolls out into Walnut Creek. But for us, this utility has been driven by the need to address the flooding in town. So those will be projects to consider in the future.
Scott, you have this, or the city has a committee set up to look at the future, if that's possible. And you mentioned one of the problems is, what do we do with the de-icing of the roads? What do we do with that runoff? But what's the committee's role?
The committee's role is really to take a look at the feasibility of a stormwater utility. It's made up of a wide range of the population. We have major industry represented, a lot of non-for-profits represented on that, and then community activists that are all part of this committee. And it's really to show them, we had our kickoff meeting, and it was just to show them what the need is for a stormwater utility and why it's something that we would propose. We like to say if we never get a complaint, we're doing our job right. Because you only know when something goes wrong when it fails. If public works folks are doing their jobs right, nothing ever fails and everybody's happy. So it was showing them that, and they were really understanding where the need comes from or where their need is. And it ties into stormwater and the combined system issue. And so then now we're going to start talking to them about what a program would look like. Like, is it going to be street sweeping once a month for the entire city? Is it going to be capital projects? We have a backlog of about $12 million roughly worth of capital projects that are identified that we could do over a 5-year span. Can we address those homeowners' concerns as far as their creek caving in their backyard and that sort of thing? And we have dollars associated with each one of those options. And so we're going to have that discussion with them and try to gain a consensus on what is a reasonable rate structure, how should a utility be developed, and how should it be operated.
Whenever cities talk about budget, they always talk about the general fund, the general levy, or should we institute a fee, a garbage fee, or what have you. And so when Mayor Ardis or Mayor Coos or Mayor Punke, they've said, we've maintained that fee, that general fee, but the specialty fees keep popping. Why a specialty fee for stormwater runoff as opposed to just putting it in the general fund?
Well, we would consider it part of the enterprise fund in line with water and sewer. But the problem with putting it in the general fund tax levy is that you completely overlook the tax exempt bodies. And so by instituting a fee, you are able to collect from the people that are actually using it in the most fair way, that we could see of doing it. Because some of the biggest users are the tax exempt bodies in town. And that's why we chose to initiate the fee the way that we did, rather than just adding what we anticipated in cost to the levy.
Is that similar in normal?
I would think the same thing as Melissa said, the council probably feels the same way.
So you've received no complaints from anybody in regard to that. You have a track record of 8 or 9 years.
Right. So we've, there's a lot of public outreach at the beginning in the plan, but since that time really have not received a lot of complaints about this program in particular. And again, the major players are paying into this fee. So the universities and some of the major commercial properties are paying this fee. And as far as the credit, applying for additional credit, really haven't had a lot of application for this additional credit either.
Really? That people that could get a discount or a credit
Right.
Have not taken that step to put in a rain barrel or pervious parking lot or what have you.
Yeah, and that's something I think we should promote. Maybe there's something wrong with that, but I mean, we do, part of this fee does pay for education, and in our standpoint, it is paid to the Ecology Action Center, which is a not-for-profit that promotes rain gardens and things like rain barrels to the public. And the other thing that's paid from this fee is we also pay the McLean County Soil and Water Conservation District, as does Bloomington, the county, to help with stormwater quality issues in the rural areas.
And you're actually talking about the possibility of a demonstration
Yes.
bioswale or something of that nature?
Yes, we've been in discussions with the college about possibly selecting somewhere in town that's very visible and utilizing the students at Eureka College to plant a rain garden to demonstrate how it can be planted, how it can be maintained, and the benefits of a rain garden.
Has the Peoria Committee looked at that aspect of encouraging the public?
Yeah, we're actually doing some pilot projects. Maine University was really one of the very first pilot projects just for green infrastructure. We have a rain garden down by Valeska Hinton School that was done by volunteers and is maintained by volunteers actually. And then we're looking at another pilot project yet this year for the combined sewer issue, but it will be to address stormwater, and that's probably going to be on Krause.
And I'm amazed at the difference that just a small, regular residential yard can make. Mike Miller at the Park District, and Mike, excuse me if I get the number wrong, but it was a large number. 50,000 gallons a year could be saved from going into the sewer system by doing the appropriate, rain garden, rain barrels, et cetera, for all that water that comes off. So
one thing we're also doing is looking at our development standards and trying to encourage those, or when we do a stormwater utility or as we look at it, doing this parallel track with development standards to try to encourage people to do green infrastructure on their private property.
And with that, it's up to you to take the next step, and we'll have to save that conversation for another time. Let me say thank you to Melissa Brown and to Scott Reese, City of Eureka, City of Peoria, and to Wayne Aldridge, Town of Normal, for the encouraging conversation about stormwater runoff utility fees. And we'll be back next week with another edition of At Issue, when we're going to be talking to the police chiefs of Peoria and Normal as what they might be doing to change their operations in light of Baltimore, Ferguson, etc. Join us next time for At Issue.